Hi, I'm Megann Marcellino, and I want to welcome you today to Generations at the Table. Thank you so much for pulling up a seat. I want to talk to you about the art of letting go. It's something that the Lord has been dealing with me on, and there's aspects of our life that we have to let go of. Today, I really want to dive into worry and anxiety, but there's scriptural instruction for us to let go of things like worry, anxiety, fear, anger, resentment, past mistakes, regrets. And when we let those things go, it's not just the letting go of those feelings and emotions, all of the negativity that's attached to them, but also the embracing of the opposite of those things, like love and kindness and forgiveness. When I think about it like if you're holding on to something in your hands and you want to pick up something, you have to let go of what is currently in your hands to pick up something that might be better. But I think that letting go is really hard sometimes because it's something that we're familiar with. Even if it's a negative emotion, it's like something that we can relate to. It may even be generational. Like I know that sometimes it's like, well, my mom always did it this way, or my grandma always did it this way, so this is how I'm going to do something. But we have to realize that the Lord He has something better for us. He has something to offer us. Worry and anxiety are things that have run in my family line as generational curses. I've seen it operate in different levels. And it's not that the people who carried those things were bad. I just don't think that they knew how to get free. And I also think that the Lord gets us free generation after generation, layer upon layer. So today I want to talk specifically about getting free from worry and anxiety and recognizing that these things not only harm us spiritually, but they hinder our relationships. They hinder our health and our body. The word says in 1 Peter 5:7, pour out all your worries and stress upon him and leave them there, for he tenderly cares for you. But I think that that's the biggest thing is the leave them there. So it's like we get rid of, we release, and then we leave them there. We don't go back and pick them up again and again. And that's the temptation with worry and anxiety, is to return to it because it's familiar and it's the habits and the patterns. And it's like it's literally created this groove in our brain and a groove in our spirit and a groove in our heart. And so we just fall back into what we come along naturally. Personally, if you ask me an area where I've struggled with worry and anxiety, it's been as a mom. I don't really feel like I faced that as much before I became a mom, but now I can like go down a rabbit trail of like the least little thing in regards to their health. And it's like all of a sudden I'm like pulling out Google, what are some natural remedies to address this? And then it becomes like this rabbit trail of fear and self-diagnosis of all these things that could be wrong. And I think we all know that when you're facing an issue, don't go to Google, but that's just, I'm kind of a researcher. It's like, I want to understand, I want to be able to, I feel like somehow, if I can understand something and prepare my heart for something, I'm like insulating it, or maybe I can fix it. Maybe I can just get ahead of God and like take care of this. But what you're feeding yourself on Google is promoting fear and worry and anxiety. So I've gone through different seasons with the kids where we might be facing something and I felt like the Lord said, stop picking up Google, get off your phone and just read the word. What does the word say about this situation? Because sometimes we let our circumstances, our feelings, our emotions, even our physical symptoms trump what the word says. And we have to just fall back on the word says that we are the healed of the Lord, and by his stripes we are healed. But when I feed that anxiety, and then all of a sudden you're like cookied for all of these things, it's just like everything is advertising to me to, in the natural, how can you fix it? So I've had to learn that I have to actually set up a physical boundary for myself. And so maybe it isn't that area for you. Maybe you battle anxiety in other areas, or fear or worry. Maybe it's, in regards to your marriage or relationships or jobs or your own health. It can be a myriad of things that we struggle with. But the point is that we have to begin to discipline our thoughts. And when we begin to manage our thoughts first, I think we can better manage our actions. A couple episodes ago, we talked about the month of Nisan, and the month of Nisan is connected to the month of the kings. But one of the interesting parallels that I saw in my study of that month is that kings controlled and ruled with their word and the authority of that which came out of their mouth. And likewise, we operate as kings on our own lives because we speak these things out over ourselves and over our lives. And we are basically giving life and creative power and authority over them. But a king knows how to manage his words and to use them correctly to lead and to guide. And in turn, we have to be the kings and queens over our own thoughts and manage those thoughts first and realize that those thoughts dictate our actions. So what we think about and what we meditate on creates an action and a habit and a pattern in our life. So I think the first step to letting go of worry and anxiety is closing the door to whatever brings those thoughts in. And then when those thoughts, those invasive thoughts, those worries, those fears, that whisper of the enemy comes in, what do we war it with? Not with logic, not with understanding, but with the word of the Lord. Lisa Bevere says this about fear, which I thought was really amazing. She says, fear expects failure, while love can never fail. Fear is a spiritual force in direct opposition to God's love and protection in our lives. It is the opposite of love, for both love and fear operate from belief in the unseen. Love challenges us to doubt what we see and believe for what we cannot. Fear, on the other hand, urges us to believe what is seen and doubt the unseen. When faced with the fear of failure or the hope of love, we can choose to believe one or the other, but never both. Fear displaces love, and love casts out fear. That's what the word says, that perfect love casts out fear. It says that in 1 John. And so I think when we can identify the enemy, which is worry and anxiety, which is ultimately rooted in fear and doubt and unbelief, this inability to trust him as Father God. When we go back and we look at what happened at the fall of mankind, Adam and Eve chose the knowledge of good and evil. They chose to basically become autonomous and to not trust God. And that was the original fall. And from that comes fear and doubt and unbelief. But it breeds worry and anxiety, and that's what we battle. Anxiety and worry impacts millions of people around the globe, but especially Americans. I read a study on Wall Street Journal when preparing to talk to you about this today, and it says that 92 million prescriptions a year are filled in the United States for anxiety. We are just overrun with it. And what is it? It's because we lack a trust in the Lord, that we can trust him no matter what. No matter what our circumstances say. And this is me preaching to myself. I have to go back to that and say, no matter what I have to walk through, you are good, you are love, you are the opposite of fear, and I can trust you. Anxiety affects our body, right? I mean, prolonged stress, it impacts how you sleep, how you feel, how you eat, your hormones. So your body is the temple of the Lord, and you were created in his image. But when you carry that which you were not made to carry, a yoke that is heavy, anxiety and worry, instead of taking on the yoke that Yeshua offers us, which he says, my yoke is light and he does not give us heavy burdens. But when we trust in him, we are free to prosper and to live in abundance. When we're operating in a place of anxiety, all of a sudden you're operating from a place of dread, a lack of motivation, a place where your thoughts are fixated on the negative. And that is not a healthy place for you as a wife, as a mom, as a friend. Wherever you are, when you're carrying that, you don't want to carry that into those situations. You want to carry faith, hope, and love. Philippians 4:6 says, be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And I think that that's where we have to fall back on as believers, is when we're operating from a place of worry and anxiety, we need to bring those to the Lord and say, here's where I'm struggling. I'm going to pour this out to you like you asked me to, and I'm going to leave it here. And I'm not going to wallow. And I'm not going to come back and get it again. And I'm not going to even call my best friend or my mom or my husband about it. I'm just going to tell you, here's where I'm at. And I need your help changing my heart, transforming my heart, redeeming my heart. This process of salvation is something that we walk out. We are consistently being redeemed and changing more into his likeness. And if we aren't, then that is not truly the Christian walk. The Christian walk is constantly being refined. And so it's okay to say, I still need to improve in this area. We need to lean in to the peace that surpasses understanding. I'm going to say that again. We need to lean into the peace that surpasses understanding, which means we choose peace over what our minds can understand. That worry, the anxiety of the world and the systems. I don't know about you, but I find being a parent right now, it's really scary. It's hard to know what it's going to be like to raise kids in a world that has changed so much in our lifetime. You know, we're sitting here right now at the time of this recording, and all of this stuff is like looming with Iran. And we have friends that we love in Israel and family. And it's just like, what's going to happen? It's scary. It's concerning. But we're having to put our faith and our hope and our trust in the Lord and his word, which does not fail. Psalms 55:22 says this, "So here's what I've learned through it all." Because that's where we learn. It's walking through it. It's those hard times, those challenging times, those valley moments. Leave all your cares and all your anxieties at the feet of the Lord, and measureless grace will sustain you. Again, what does he say? Leave your cares and anxieties. Don't go back and pick them up, because that's what we do. We pray about it to like vent, to kvetch, to moan, and then we're back again. We're picking it up. So what do we do? If you're going to create an empty space in your life and an empty space in your heart from worry and anxiety, you got to embrace faith. You need to embrace trust, embrace love. And when we let go of worry, we open up ourselves, we open up our hearts to operate from a deeper place of faith and trust in God. I've shared this before, but when the Lord opened our hearts to the idea of having Matthew as our third born child, I realized that I wasn't open to the idea because I was afraid, because I felt like I was already overwhelmed with 2 children, and I didn't feel like I could navigate my life with a third. Even though I know that I can't even navigate my life with 1 or 2 kids, for some reason, it just felt like that was going to push me over the edge. But the Lord was like, will you trust me? If I have something more, will you receive a gift that I have for you? And allowing that to happen was one of the scariest things I did. But I remember holding him in the hospital and feeling like I had received this gift I didn't know that I needed, I didn't know that I wanted, but I was being healed through that moment. And it was solely because I had said, okay, I trust you in a way with a peace that surpasses my understanding, because I don't know how I'm going to navigate this. I don't know how we're going to manage, but I'm trusting you. And his best was so much better than the best I could have imagined. And our life is so full and wild, but it's amazing. And God knew more than me. And I had to just lean into that. Anxiety and peace place us in a position of unrest, but love and faith and trust, it truly unlocks that peace that surpasses understanding. So how do we cultivate faith in our daily life? How do we fight against it? I think that the importance is knowing what you feed your mind, what you feed your heart, and how you build community and sustain it. So for you, whatever it is that you're battling, wherever that fear and anxiety comes in, if it's on what's on your phone, if it's on social, if it's, on TV, if it's Netflix, if it's a show you watch, like you don't watch it. I mean, I remember watching a show about where it was started to go into like this terrible labor story and delivery story. And I was pregnant at the time. And I just told Paul, I was like, I can't do that. You gotta turn that off. I cannot even go there at what might go wrong, what could go wrong, what could happen. Like, don't open my doors, the eyes of my heart. This year we say that we're walking through the doors of destiny. But in order to walk through the doors of destiny that the Father has for you, you have to choose to not walk through those other doors or not allow those other doors to remain open. Like, it's a disciplined act of choosing your destiny over choosing all the other options. The word says that pressured is the way, narrow is the gate, and few that find it. That means that it's a choice. And I really don't like the expression like whatever be will be will be. And it's very much like, what if it's meant to happen, it will happen. Well, yeah, I mean, sort of, kind of, but a lot of times we have to operate in obedience, to walk after, to seek after what the Lord says. Look at the life of Yeshua. When he came on purpose, and he lived in intention, and he managed his time, and he discipled his people, and he multiplied his message. He didn't just like happenstance. I'm just going to show up and whatever happens, happens. I'm the Son of God. No, he lived with laser purpose and laser focus, and we reap the benefit of that. We have reaped salvation from his sacrifice. So if we're going to model our life, who better to model our life after? I just want to encourage you to embrace the gift of faith and realize that it starts as a mustard seed. And sometimes faith is a choice and not something you feel. Like you may feel great faith going into a situation because you've had a tremendous experience and you've witnessed the faithfulness of God. And that's awesome. And those moments are great. But sometimes it's this just like that little step, toe off the ledge of trusting the Lord and seeing the first peak of his faithfulness. There's teaching in Judaism that, it's outside of like what's in the word, but they say that when the Israelites exited Egypt and they're getting ready to cross the Red Sea, that it was someone from the tribe of Judah, someone from the tribe of praise who first jumped into the Red Sea, to the Sea of Reeds, and the sea began to part. That they recognized the need to trust God to get them across. And so they said, I don't even see it parting, but I'm jumping in. I don't know if that happened. I don't remember if it's in the Midrash or the Talmud where that comes from, but that's the story that is carried down from the Jewish scholars. But I think it's so powerful to realize that someone had to participate in what God was doing. Someone had to jump in faith and self-sacrifice and said, okay, we got out of Egypt and now we're going to cross the Red Sea. So I'm putting my foot in without even seeing it part. There is a journey for us in our life from worry to faith and from letting go of anxiety and fear and embracing trust. So don't be too hard on yourself, but close the doors that are trying to speak into you in those areas of worry and anxiety and open wide your doors of destiny. Begin to feed yourself with the word and begin to not only pray, don't whine to God, don't show up and be like, oh God, da 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 da. Express your heart, pour out your heart, maybe once and say, here's where I'm at. I'm struggling with this. I'm not seeing this miracle. This is causing me fear. Here's where I'm at. But then begin to decree, but I am a woman. I am a man. I am whoever you are, a mother, a father, a daughter, and I trust you and I trust your word. And I believe that your word says this over me, because prayer is as much conversation and decreeing and reminding your soul. It is not always a posture of begging and asking. It is decreeing what the word says about you and about your situation. So if you're battling fear and anxiety, that is where we come at it. We come at it with the word. And what does the word say? I'm going to close with this. The words of Matthew 6:25, when he says, this is why I tell you to never be worried about your life, for all that you will need will be provided, such as food, water, clothing, everything your body need. Isn't there more to life than a meal? Isn't your body more than clothing? So then forsake your worries. Why would you say, what will we eat? What will we drink? What will we wear? So above all, constantly chase after the realm of God's kingdom and the righteousness that proceeds from him. And that righteousness that represents justice, chase after God's justice. Then all these less important things, these things that we worry about, that we have anxiety over, will be given to you abundantly. Refuse to worry about tomorrow. Refuse, he says, that's a choice, right? Chasing after God's kingdom realm to unlock provision, that's a choice. We refuse and we chase, but deal with each challenge that comes your way one day at a time. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Do you believe that? I do, but I struggle with it. One day at a time is so hard for me. I want to plan, I want to know, I want to prepare, but that's not what the word says. So today, you and I pulled up a seat at the table and we are choosing to trust him one day at a time. We are choosing to embrace the art of letting go. We are letting go of fear. We are letting go of worry and anxiety, and we are embracing love. We are embracing trust. We are embracing faith. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I can't wait to be with you again, same time, same place next week.